Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation, which is focusing on the Green Employment and Skills Partnership Programme, which has been running since January. A couple of introductions before we jump into the sort of finer detail. My name's Jeff Bocock. I'm the Programme Manager on this particular programme, and the link below my contact details there will take you to the current web page. We've made some amends to that recently because the programme is no longer taking on individuals onto the programme, and I'll allude to that as part of the presentation. But it's with great pleasure that I also wanted to introduce Tony Ward, who's our employer engagement consultant, who has done a sterling job since the start of the programme, bringing on a number of employers and building some really strong and solid relationships with those employers. Also on the call, we have Karen Miso, recently appointed as the Employer Engagement Manager here at One Manchester as well. And also delighted to introduce Amna Shafiq, who is our Programme Support Officer. And besides being our Programme Support Officer, she's also a candidate on this particular programme as well. And again, has done some amazing work to support colleagues across the business. So a couple of introductions. Again, feel free to reach out, contact us. We're more than happy to help and support in any way that we can. So just moving on to the next slide. So I'm not going to play these videos, but I just would draw your attention to a couple of videos. So the links, when we share the slides at the end of today, you will be able to click on the links and have a look at two videos. The one on the left is just a 1-minute video, which gives an overview of the programme, and I'm going to go into detail about that anyway. On the right hand side, there is a great video testimonial from Karen. Karen is currently working at Groundwork, and from what I believe, she now has the opportunity to continue with the organisation post her work placement. So again, feel free to click on the video, which is actually on our website as well. You'll see that on our website. So again, in your own time, feel free to explore those as well. So the next slide, I just want to give you a general overview of the project, talk about some of the targets, the partners that we've been working with, and equally some of the deadlines that we've been working towards as well. So the programme is one of many Community Renewal Fund programmes, and we've had a lot of interest in the programme since its inception. Again, the green economy, green jobs, green skills is very much front and centre, not just for the government, but also across the world as well. So we've been leading on the project, but we've been supported by other partners, which I'll touch on in a second. As I've mentioned already, the actual programme itself will come to an end at the end of November. We did have a final date, which was the 21st of October, in terms of candidates joining the programme on a work placement. If there was any candidates that didn't join a work placement, we can still support them in terms of training support, job searching, life skills, gaining qualifications as well. So there's really are some ongoing benefits to the programme. And the programme, was aimed at, and still is aimed at, identifying and testing new roles within the green economy and building those relationships with employers. Our target was 125 paid work placements, all paid at the real living wage, and candidates could join the programme and complete a work placement from 15 up to 21 hours per week. And we had a number of those candidates that were on 6-month placements, and some on a little bit less as well, depending on their actual start date. Currently, we stand at 111 paid work placements. It may go up slightly, but not too much more than that. So just falling short of our target of 125. We've identified a number of new green roles, and green jobs, it can be quite broad, but we've just given some examples there in terms of some of the areas that we've touched on: retrofit, construction, recycling, renewable energy, etc., etc. And as I said there, that is certainly not an exhaustive list. And I know that Tony, when I hand over to Tony shortly, he'll tell you a little bit more about those particular roles and employer relationships. So the actual wages of the participants on the programme is all grant aided. So the employers, once they've taken on that individual, they would submit an invoice to us, and we would pay them for the wages that they've paid out for the candidates on the programme. Some great partners supporting this particular programme, including Groundwork, Yes Manchester, the Blair Project, Beef Box, Manchester Carbon Co-op, and equally by a range of referral partners, including DWP, Ingeus, that have referred candidates into the programme. So establishing some really good, solid partnerships with our partners, who incidentally have been employers as well in some cases, and also with referral partners. And as we come to the end of the programme, we are pulling together a final evaluation, and that will support our ongoing monthly reports that we send into GMCA as well. Next slide, in terms of eligibility, focus and support. So the programme was aimed at those individuals that were that had a Manchester City Council postcode. And on the right-hand side of the presentation there, you will see, a general overview, small little map there, which gives you an indication of the north, south and equally east parts of Manchester that the programme actually covered. In terms of priority groups, the programme is very much aimed at those people from disadvantaged groups, including those that are not in education, employment and training, those that are over 50, lone parents, people with disabilities, and people from the BAME communities as well. As I mentioned already, North East and South Manchester were our focus, and specifically those individuals that were unemployed, maybe facing some kind of barriers to employment, and equally in terms of economically inactive, and again touches on Tony's point, Tony Cotton from City of Trees, in the point that he made earlier in terms of some of those really long-term unemployed people that have joined the programme and have had a really good positive experience. That's really good to hear. All of the actual individuals on the programme are supported by an employability coach or employment coach, and that is ongoing throughout the duration of the programme. And we have a series of mandatory training that we offer, and that particular piece of mandatory training is the carbon literacy training delivered in conjunction with Groundwork, but also supported by some optional training in terms of insight sessions, which I'll talk about in a second. And again, the employers, they're supporting the individuals whilst they're on the programme as well. And that starts from the recruitment process, ongoing reviews, and looking at potential progression into either full-time or part-time work after the programme has ended. Really delighted to say that throughout the programme we offered IT equipment support, travel expenses, and in some cases support with childcare expenses as well. So really looking to reduce all of the barriers that would stop an individual joining the programme. Moving on to the training provision that we have on the programme. So I've touched on the carbon literacy, that being the mandatory training that we ask all individuals to take part in. And then below that, we have a series of 5 insight sessions. So as it says on the tin, it's to give individuals an insight into whether it's the built environment, natural environment, all the way through to the 5th one there on the slide deck, digital technology. And you'll see from the icons in the middle column that those are delivered by our partners as well. I'll get Am to say a little bit more about the training in a session and the progression that we had from doing it face-to-face, albeit through Teams, into sharing links with the individuals as well. So a whole host of training that we offer. And what I would just add to that is, besides what we've got in front of us, we're also able to offer a whole range of accredited and non-accredited training as well. We've had a big uptake in terms of first aid training, CSCS card support as well, and just more general in terms of customer service, health and safety as well. And that's a mixture of online and equally face-to-face delivery as well. So I'm just going to go on to the next slide, which now is going to start to touch on the employer links that we've had, some of the jobs, etc. So at this point, I shall hand over to Tony. I know that I've missed you out, sorry, Amna, but I'll come back to you, so apologies, I haven't forgotten. So yeah, if you can just go over to Tony first, that will be brilliant, and then I'll bring in Amna for some words about the training.
Do you want me just to say a bit? Sorry.
Is that Tony Cotton yet?
Yeah. Do you want me to just say a bit about the?
Perfect. Yeah, about what you're doing at the City of Trees. So yeah, just
urban forestry roles. Yeah. So for those who don't know, City of Trees is a charity which plants trees right across Greater Manchester and manages woodland as well. So we have to get a lot of trees in the ground, and it was very fortunate that One Manchester had this project where you could offer paid work placements at the time that we needed trees to get in the ground. So that's a nice mix. And it's been really good, because part of my job as the Green Jobs Coordinator is to open up this sector to people who wouldn't necessarily think this is the type of work that they would get involved in, but it's really opened their eyes to people from low-income communities who never thought of working in the environmental sector. So it's been great for that. And it's been really good for us in terms of the work experience, and it's proved once again, like Kickstart, that if you offer paid work placements, I think people just become more employable. So I'm supporting the work coaches from One Manchester in terms of, okay, what next for the people who are on this project.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Tony. Yeah, it's really good to hear, because as much as this program has provided opportunities for individuals on a short-term basis, we've always been passionate to ensure where possible that continues. Again, firstly, depends on the individual's performance, but equally the great support with the likes of City and Trees and some of these other businesses that we're going to touch on shortly as well. But that's really great feedback, Tony, and thanks to you and everybody else at City of Trees for your support. That's been brilliant.
We've got more out of it than you have, Jeff, honestly. It's been really good for us, because I need to show City of Trees that we don't maybe have to employ people with a degree in environmental science in order to plant the trees bit. Yes. And that conversation's been really good for us.
Brilliant, thanks so much for that, Tony. That's really good to hear. So if I can just bring in another Tony, so Tony Ward, who's our employer engagement consultant, just to talk through this particular slide, and then I will go and just bring up the next slide as well for you, Tony. So just give me a shout when you want to move that on.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thanks, Tony Cotton from City of Trees. That was a really good insight into how good the initiative has been, or some of the benefits of the initiative, certainly. You've got to see some roles there that we've got there, but actually what I'm going to start with first of all is by saying what has been encouraging has been the range of employers who've taken part in this, and there've been large companies, there've been SMEs, there've been small ones, range of sectors that we've covered. So there's the public sector, the private sector, there's the third sector, and the industries within those sectors, notably construction and retrofit, hospitality. So it's been really encouraging to see the breadth of employers who've really bought into it. So that has been really a real positive. I think as well, as a byproduct, strangely enough, from this, and it wasn't the intention at all, but it is also the initiative pays the real living wage, and it has also raised the profile and the awareness of the real living wage in some circumstances as well. So that was a real good byproduct of it as well. There have been a couple of challenges along the way. I think initially, probably one of the first challenges we came across was because of the relative short-term nature, certainly initially, of the programme. It was due to finish at the end of June and then was extended to November. I think that proved a little bit of a barrier for some particularly larger companies where they had to go through a number of internal processes to get various approvals. So I think if we did this again, it would be a really good learning point that to bear in mind for approaching some of the larger companies. And also I wouldn't say it was a challenge, but it was really interesting to see obviously the roles. They just can't be any roles. As you can see here, they have to have a green element, a significant green element to them. And that challenge as well of making the role profile sufficiently green that it would, that it actually makes a difference to the kind of environmental sector. So that was also a bit of a challenge. But coming back to the roles themselves, Tony has already mentioned about the urban forestry assistant, so the tree planting, and let's face it, you can't really get much more green than planting trees, I suppose, really. But also we've had sustainability assistance from local authority. We've had reuse and recycling roles where they're putting good use to unwanted articles, etc., and things that have been repurposed. There've been even roles that in 3D printing, which, as some of you may know, 3D printing revolutionizes some manufacturing aspects in terms of developing prototypes. So it eliminates and reduces a lot of wastage that typically takes part in those sort of processes. So that again has been really, really good. We've had people working on electric vehicles. So it has been really interesting to see the commitment as well, so of lots of these organizations, both to the roles and to the people they've taken on board as well as the placements. So I think I've probably covered both areas there. If you want to go on to the next slide there, Jeff, we can get some of the companies up. So you can see some of the organisations that we've engaged with: Manchester City Council, TalkTalk. So I think in TalkTalk's case, they were looking at how they took somebody on to how they could maybe reduce the carbon footprint of their supply chain. The River Manchester involved in a lot of recycling and repurposing of furniture. Suez Recycling, the Blair Project working on electric vehicles. Blossom, a very interesting organisation based at Wythenshawe Park that actually almost like twofold is working on growing vegetables and teaching people, more importantly, about how they can become more sustainable through the interest in vegetables, and also by the way, have a recipe book which is helping them to kind of like sort of go the first full circle with those and eat your own vegetables as well. So a really good kind of well-being aspect to that one as well. So yeah, you can see some of the organizations, and this is just a snapshot of some of the organizations we've engaged with. So yeah, it's been a real good success.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Tony. So just to bring in as well, Anne Shafiq, who's our administrative or project support officer on the programme, just to say a few words firstly about the training and obviously her involvement in supporting candidates and coaches from that aspect, and perhaps just a few words about her own experience and what she's taken as a candidate on the programme as well. So if that's okay with yourself, Amna.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, finally. So hi everyone, my name is Amna Shafiq. I am on this program since April, and it's been a great experience for me. So I'm still here, so that's really great. My contract ends at the end of this month, so yeah, but it's been so great. I am involved with training. We offered lots of training. Recently, Jeff and me started doing online training workshop for candidates on the program to promote the wide range of training we have to offer. Sometimes candidates are not aware of the training we have, because we have varied training: online, accredited, non-accredited, face-to-face, whatever they need, we have that in our box. And sometimes we can signpost people to the training they are looking for. And we have very good feedback from candidates who are interested in training, like first aid training, health and safety, insight session, carbon literacy, food hygiene, and so much more. So it's been so great. I think people have been enjoying this program and the training. We do have some challenges in this particular sector about the training, because actually when we sign up people for training, they don't show up. We have to call them, we have to send SMS reminders, but still, yeah, we have faced some challenges, but overall it's a great experience.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Tamna. Yeah, some really good positives. And I think just zooming back from all of this is, it's like with any program that has a short shelf life, that we always endeavor to amplify the message, get the information out to referral partners in general, candidates. So communication and amplification of messages is always key. It would have been great if we'd have had maybe another 6 months, but again, we all know that the government doesn't have an infinite pot of money. But yeah, really good to hear that. Thanks very much, Amna, for the feedback there. So just moving on to the final couple of slides now. You'll have probably picked up, in terms of the major benefits on the left-hand side there. For the candidates, the fact that it's a fully paid work placement at the real living wage, plethora of training opportunities, support by employability coaches, and equally by employers that we've touched on already. And some of the wider wraparound support in terms of travel passes, support with IT and childcare. Perhaps just the one point at the bottom there that I've not touched on is we are developing a digital platform, not so much the app, but the platform, whereby this will be a learner management system, and not just a learner management system, but a platform whereby we can store information about employers, referral partners, etc., to benefit future programs, including our green skills and construction boot camps, which I'll touch on in a second. And then over to the right hand side, I think as Tony from City of Trees has already highlighted some of these major benefits that as an organization they've benefited from, and equally other employers have fed back to the fact that it really de-risks their recruitment strategy to a certain degree. But the main thing is it gives people a chance. That's what it's about. It's about giving people a chance from those disadvantaged communities across Manchester to step into what will only be a huge growth area in the future. And the Northwest is predicted to have the highest number of green jobs in the future. So again, a great thing to shout about for this particular area as well. So what next? I mentioned already that the program is coming to an end. I've spoken about on the left-hand side that we've achieved currently 111 placed candidates, may go up slightly, and there is that continuity of job searching, life skills, movement into education or training, or even self-employment. So that's ongoing support for our candidates on program. Touched on there that we have the Green Skills and Construction Bootcamp, which is now up and running. And again, if you go to onemanchester.co.uk and have a look at the Green Skills and Construction page, then that will give you a lot more interest. And it sort of emphasises really the continuity from this programme onto further green skills programmes as well. We are developing, and we've got some great both video as well as static case study materials that we can that can act not just as legacy material but also support the construction boot camps. And I've also mentioned about the programme evaluation. So if people more generally wanted to reach out to us, you have got our personal contact information. You've also got there the green employment email address as well, so feel free to reach out. And then on the right hand side, in terms of employer and equally partner engagement moving forward, we are continuing to develop those relationships with our partners, and we are maintaining those relationships with employers, and looking at other opportunities in the future as an organisation, and that's One Manchester, and as a partnership as well. So partnership really has been the key to the success of this particular programme. Again, in the same way, they're developing candidate, we're also developing the employer case studies, and we will involve not just candidates but also employers in that final evaluation as well. A couple of email addresses at the bottom as well, just to signpost people to as well. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I will stop sharing my screen, but happy to take any questions at all that anybody has. So again, if you want to just take yourselves off mute, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, then please just jump in, and we'll between the four of us, we're happy to take any questions. I can see you waving there, Emily.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for that. That was really interesting. Yeah, sounds like a great programme, and great to hear about the variety of employers that you kind of engage with, from big national companies to sort of local social enterprises.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was particularly interested in, I've got two questions.
Yeah, sure.
So first of all, so it was a 6-month rollout of the scheme, right? But in terms of the kind of lead up and the development of the whole programme and engaging with employers, what kind of time period did you have to build those relationships? And then secondly, shall I jump?
Yeah, no. Yeah, give us a second one as well, because I'll probably be thinking about that one as well.
In what was the process for the employers that you worked with? Yeah. For choosing which employers you worked with? Was it kind of a call out to everybody and seeing who came back, or was it based on sort of local skills gaps? And I guess the same for the training that you offered, the bespoke training. Yeah. Was that based on sort of local skills gaps and demand, or was it more you engaged with employers? Yes. And then it was what they could offer, if you see what I mean.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll take the training first, if that's all right, Tony. So predominantly, bearing in mind that we had to develop processes and procedures, and again, pretty much from scratch. Tony joined the program just before me, so I'll lean towards his response in a second. But in terms of the training, so I spent a number of years at the Growth Company in Manchester and was involved in one of their skills initiatives, and so had an understanding of the shortfall in green skills and construction. And again, that's on the back of the huge developments that are taking place across Greater Manchester in terms of construction. So we know there's a shortfall there. But we were led by the demand by the individuals joining the actual programme, because the area of green skills and green jobs is very wide, as Tony sort of highlighted, and we really wanted our candidates to benefit personally in terms of where they are now and equally where they would like to be in the future in terms of their development. So we had, Emily, and we still have a whole raft of different types of training. It's huge, but we always wanted to make it more bespoke, so we offered out a range of what is perhaps quite generic stuff, but equally said to people, if you've got some specific requests, please let us know, because invariably we could help. But as Amna said, we were challenged by the fact that we needed certain numbers for those cohorts to actually move ahead. So in answer to your question, we had predominantly driven by the requests of the candidates on the programme, and again behind or alongside that, the coaches were working with those individuals as part of their reviews to draw out what they feel they would benefit from. So that's everything from a training perspective. So I'll just hand back to Tony for those two areas from an employment point of view.
Really good questions, actually. The short answer initially would be that it was, I suppose, like with lots of these government initiatives, you start from a standing start. However, you try and minimize that standing start or get up and running as fast as possible by, I think, first of all, we were able to set up an effective partner program. So we worked with a number of partners like Groundwork, etc., who, also provided a basis for employment, but also had some skills and some knowledge in those areas as well. So we had a very good partnership program set in place. And from a personal perspective, and it was my responsibility, I suppose, to get employer engagement up and running, or to maximize that. I was able to leverage some existing relationships that I have already with lots of other organizations within the Northwest that I've worked with previously, but also not only relationships with employers, but also relationships with support organizations. Jeff's already mentioned the Growth Company. So the Growth Company, and again, our partners and other signposting organizations. So we needed to, because originally, as you know, the end date was the end of June. So we really had to get our skates on, really. So we really had to market this and publicize it as well as we could. And one way of doing that is maybe attending events, and a lot of those were online events, etc. Just promoting it to as wide an audience as we possibly could within the time frame. And then we started getting referrals from other companies. So companies who were having a real success in this initiative. So they actually, we know someone else who might be interested in this. Fantastic. Got, referral to that as well. And also the fact that organizations weren't limited to just one individual. They could take a number of placements on. So following the success of initial placements they had, they said, look, we've got some more roles here we can fill. They're all green, they're all sustainable, they all work linked to, what you want to achieve. Can we employ some more people? So that was, it gathered a momentum of its own after a while, as these things do. So yeah, and I think we had quite a lot of roles outstanding at the end as well that we couldn't fill effectively in the end because of a number of reasons. But yeah, standing start, but there are ways you can minimize that and to just get up and running as quickly as possible. And it was a real benefit, of course, when it was extended around about March, April time, that it was going to go to the end of November. So that bought us some extra time to promote and publicize it as well. But yeah, so in a nutshell, those are the kind of main areas. So I hope that kind of answers your questions there.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tony. It's really helpful.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, and again, just to emphasize what Tony was touching on there, pretty much towards the end of the program, every single week, we would have in the region of 30 plus vacancies to fill. So a big number of vacancies. Our challenge was to get more candidates on the program, and that dovetails, Emily, with the work that we did with a local marketing company. And their great efforts in terms of developing a bank of marketing collateral, which included the video that I mentioned at the start of the presentation, and just bombarding the market more crudely, just making people aware of it. And it takes time, as Tony said, to gather that momentum. And through those referrals, that was one aspect that it really started to gather momentum as well. So yep, hopefully that helps, Emily. Good. Okay. I'm not sure if there's any other questions. If there isn't, as I say, I'm sure that the slide deck will be distributed to people that are attended, and equally this particular recording as well, for it to be shared. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily have the time to join calls, but it's something that here at One Manchester we're more than happy, Ellie, to share across our networks, and hopefully invite further and wider conversation in terms of the green economy. So yeah, last thing from myself really is just to say thanks for everybody for joining the call today. If you're listening to this on catch up, then please reach out to us. And finally, just a massive thank you to the team here at One Manchester. Everybody that's been involved in this particular programme has done a sterling job. So yeah, thank you to everybody. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything else, Ellie, just to round things off.
Yeah, no, thank you for fantastic presentation. It was great to hear about it. So I mean, this week of action that we're holding at GMCVO is all about how we can transition to a greener, fairer, greater Manchester. And I think that's a brilliant example. And I know that these sort of programmes aren't the cheapest to run, but the learning that will come out of it and how can link up those people that aren't economically active or might be on lower incomes to these new greener jobs, and just hearing about the amount of green jobs coming forward is going to continue to grow. And yeah, it'll be great to see what comes out of that evaluation and that learning, and how it can benefit all people across Greater Manchester, getting them into greener roles. And like the great example from City of Trees as well, the benefit that it is to voluntary sector organisations economically as well. So yeah, it was brilliant. So thank you very much. And yeah, as you said, Jeff, we can share this more widely after as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ellie. Yeah, so come and join the green revolution across Greater Manchester.